This is Gemara Sanhedrin. Daf Chav Zayin, all learning for this month, the month of Teves, has been generously sponsored as a Zchus Aliyas Neshama for Rabbi Leib and Rav Ya'akov V'siyata D'Shmaya. The Koyach HaTorah should bring an incredible Zchus Aliyas Neshama, as the Neshama of Aryeh Leib and Yaakov is Oila higher and higher in Gan Eden Shel Maila. As well as learning should continue bringing the ultimate Refuah Shalema Bekaraiv for Tinaik ben Miriam Ahuva. We are holding on the bottom of Chavav and Beis. We're at the Simin. We're about 10 lines into the white lines. And the Gemara says, Simin Dvar Arayis Ganav. Once again, reminding us how Simanim are not a new thing. The Torah, the Gemara used to be oral, so they mamish needed Simanim to remember it. Now we have it written down, and unfortunately, we still can't remember it. So we utilize Simanim. Many have dove into the wonderful Zichru Simanim with incredible success. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Nachman, Oichle Davar Acher Psulim Leidus. Continuing on the theme, who is Pasal Leidus, says the Gemara, someone who eats Davar Acher. We'll see exactly what Davar Acher is. But Rashi translates Davar Acher as if you eat something from Mikabli Tzaka, Min Hanachrin Davichila Hashem, Machvas Baman Ravali Kirosha de Chamas. Rashi learns that Oichle Davar Acher is referring to, usually Davar Acher is referring to a pig, but over here it's referring to the eating something that you got from a guy that they give to Avodah Zarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Such a person is pasal leidus. Says the Gemara, Hani Mili, says only when someone accepts, again, Eichli Davaracha, we're learning you're accepting tzedakah from a guy, and the concern being that the guy did it l'shem avodah zara. Says the Gemara b'farhesia, avol b'tzin alai, and even if you do it publicly, nami lo yamaran al de'efshar le l'sazunei b'sina. It's only if someone was able to support himself by getting the money privately. Kamavazi navshei b'farhesia, and he didn't, and he went and he degraded himself publicly to get this money. Avol lo yefshar chayutei. But if it's impossible, this guy is not mamish, not able to live, and the only way he's able to live is by taking this money from the guy, then even if he does it for Hesia, as that is his only means of survival, he'd still be kosher leidus. That's din number one for the day of Rav Nachman. Amar Rav Nachman, din number two, ha choshet al arayis, kosher leidus. So in his choshet, he's only suspectful. What does it mean? He's suspected al arayis. Pashtas, it means in the past there were stories, there were rumors in which he was involved. He's kosher leidus, says Rav Nachman. Amar Rav Sheishes, ani mari arban bekatvei v'kosher. Says Rav Sheishes, ani mare, answer me. Arbin v'katvei, 40 stripes, literally meaning he gets malchus. V'kosher, how could someone, as Rashi speaks out at the very end of the narrow lines, how could someone be chayim malchus? As we know, the Marmara Malkin al Toiva Shemua Shem Albani Ki Lo Toiva Shemua Gemara Makis, which will we're in Kedushin, also Malchus, that we'll get to soon. How could it be that such a person is chayim malchus? And yet we're saying he's going to be kosher leidus, asks Rav Sheishes. Amar Rava, so Rava comes along and he explains, Umaydir Rav Nachman linyan eidos isha shu pasal. Rav Nachman is masking that such a person is pasal for eidos isha. Amar Avina v'itemer Papalaya Marna Fuka Avlayua Lesamba. Says Ravina, no. Says only la fuka, to take a woman out of a marriage. Such a person who he himself is chasher al arayos, he himself is pasal. But avlayuye, but to say that she is married, then he is kosher leidos. Because why else? Meaning, let's go a little bit deeper. This person is chasher al arayos. So to say that this woman is not married, we have to be worried. Wait, maybe this guy wants to get involved with this woman. But to say that she is married, he's saying that this woman is not available to him. So therefore, he would be a kosher to say such. Says the Gemara Vada, Pshita. Explains the Gemara, Ma'u the Tema, you know what I would think? Ha, difale. I would think that there's even more reason to testify. Why is there more reason to testify about such a person? Meaning, the Gemara is suggesting that there's more reason to testify that she's a married woman. We know that stolen waters are sweeter. We know that the koyach of the Avera adds an element, a lure, a desire. So maybe this person that's chashad al arayis, he bedavko wants to say that this woman is married, and then get that thrill. Kamashlan the kama the kaimi achi shchichalei. Ravina teaches us no. It's more. She'll be more available to him. She'll be more able to have avera with him. And that's why he'll only have that amanis to say she's not married, but not to say that she is married. And again, we sort of could see this siman already of Rav Nachman. Point number 1 was davar acher. Point number 2 of Rav Nachman was chashad al arayis. And point number 3 of Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Nachman, Ganav Nisan, the Ganav Tishrei, Lo Yishmei Ganav. The third din of Rav Nachman says a Nisan Ganav, a Tishrei Ganav, is not called a Ganav. So what does this mean? Says the Gemara, Ani Mili Barusa. This means that such a person takes more, he's a sharecropper, and he takes more of his share in certain months, but Davar Muat. And it's referring to the fact that it's a davar muat. Shenigra malachtai. Davar muat ubedavar shenigra malachtai, and only a small amount that is fully grown. Such a scenario, that level of ganav, says the Gemara, he is still going to be kasher leidos because lo yishmei ganav. And Karei the Rav Zvid. So Rav Zvid comes along, and there were some farmers. One of the farmers stole a kav of barley, and Rav Zvid said he's possible. And one stole a cluster of dates. And Rav Zvid said he's possible as well. So even though l'chayra these were small amounts, and they were fully farm produce, still Rav Zvid said they're possible because these were not sharecroppers. Rav Nachman's din was dafka be'arisei, because in aris who's getting a percentage, then Rav Nachman is teaching us there's a little bit more leeway because he could rationalize to himself taking that little bit more. But a regular farmer, regular laborer that's being paid per hour is not getting the produce at all. Rav Zvid Paskin, even on a small amount, he's going to be pasaledus. We conclude part A of today's shiur, Hanu Kiburei de Kabur. There were grave diggers who buried Nafsha b'yamtav rishon shel atzeres, who buried someone on the first day of Shavuos. Shamtin Rababa pasaledus. Rababa put them in chayre and pasal them deidus. Vachsharinu Rav Huna buried Rav Yeshua. Rav Huna buried Yeshua said, no, they're kosher. Amarli Rababa varashayim, they knew. How can you say that they're kosher leaders? They're Rishayim. You're not allowed to bury on the first day of Yantif. Says the Gemara, you know why? A similar idea that we just said. Why were those sharecroppers kosher? Because they rationalized. They didn't mean to be ganavim. And the yisai that we're learning is, it came via rationalization. It's not going to passel you leidus. So similarly over here, it says the Gemara, Savri mitzvah avdi, that they thought that they're doing a mitzvah, burying someone, and that's the reason they're not passel leidus. But we put them into chayrim a different time, and yet they did it again. Says the Gemara, Savri kapara ka'avdi le'rabbanan. They thought, no, they got a kapara by going to chayrim, and now they can continue doing what they perceive to be a mitzvah. And therefore, says the Gemara, we don't have a raya, and in such a case, they would be kosher le'idas. Says the Gemara, Itmar, moving along to a new topic, as we'll see, a topic of kosher le'idas, pasal le'idas, etc. Eid Zaimim. Turning over to Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, says the Gemara, Eid Zaimim, which we know that someone testified that such and such happened in such and such place, and then someone else came along and said, how can you give such testimony? Imanu Ayisem, you were with us on that date. So Eid Zaimim Abaye Amar Lemafreya Unifsal, V'Rava Amar Mikana Labo Unifsal. When is he apostle? Says Abaye Lemafreya, back to the time that he's found. And as Rashi spells out on the second line, the case was that he gave Edus on Nisan and Kamuzam and Tishrei, all the prior Eduyos that he gave him Bezdin are Psulim. Why? Shari Mishayed Edazu Rasha, because he was a Rasha. Rava says no, only for that moment and on he's possible. Abaye Amar Lemafreu Nifsa, why mean that they said Rasha? For the moment he gave that testimony, he's a Rasha. V'atayra Amar Altash is Rasha Yadcha im Rasha. Altash is Rasha aid. Zakt Abaye, you can't be an aid if you're a Rasha. Rava Amar no, Mikanu Labo Nifsa Eid Zoimim Chidishu. Eid Zoimim, the whole idea is a Chiddush. Why? We have two different Eidim really coming at odds. So who says the second guy, when he says Imanu Ayisem, you couldn't have seen that Eidos, you're with us? Who says that they have more credibility than the first guy that says they saw the Eidos? Elamai, it's a Chiddush. The Torah says we believe the second Eidim, and therefore says Rava, and therefore there's only going to be an emanus from the moment of Chiddush. It's only going to be from the Chiddush and onward. We're not going to be able to expand the Chiddush anything more than that which is Pashit in that which is the Chiddush itself. Another lashon Rav Amar Nami Kabaye. Rav says like Abaye that they're apostle Mafreya Sirlei. Rav Nami Kabaye Sirlei. Umatam Kamar. And Rav is explaining, what's the reason that from this moment onward he says apostle Eidos? It's because that we're worried for someone who were to buy something, they wouldn't know that these Eidim are apostle, and they'll use them as Eidim on a document. That's why they're apostle. My beinayu, he says the Gemara, what's the chalik between these two lashonis? Chalik is that asidu beitrei, two witnesses, two sets come along, bechad and pasal abuani. Nami devsinu begazlanusa, or they pasal up by gazla. So these stories, this is not the chiddush of Eid Zaimim. The chiddush of Eid Zaimim is only in the Imanu Yisam. That will be the first shot, and there is not in the second shot. Rapapi did like Rava Marbaravashi, and we have the famous line, says the Gemara, we pass like Abaye over here, that what? Who niso? Says the Gemara, this is one of the cases that generally we pass like Rava, but in the numanical cases of Yal Kigam, we pass like Abaye, always a momentous time when we get to learn one of the Yal Kigams. As Rashi points out, this is the Ayin, the Eid Zaimim Hacha. This is going to be one of these unique cases that we paskin like Abaye. Once we're on the topic of Machlekes, Abaye and Rava, the Gemara takes the liberty to digress to discuss another Machlekes. Mumar Eichel Nevelos L'tei Avain Divrei Hakol Apostle. Lahaches Abaye Amar Apostle, Rava Amar Kasher. Mumar L'tei Avain, which is generally what we view people who do Averis nowadays, that they are L'tei Avain. They're chapped up by the allure and the physicalities and the desires of the world. So such a person, everyone says, if it's l'tei avain, divrei hakol pasol, he is going to be pasol leidus. However, lahachis, if he does it in defiance of the Torah, Abaye amar pasol, Rava amar kasher. Why? Abaye amar pasol avlei Rasha, v'rachman amar tash is Rasha 8. Says Abaye is possible because he's a Rasha, and Torah says Rasha can be an 8. Rava Amar Kasha, Rasha de Chamos Beinon. Says Rava Chiddush. The only Rasha that is Pasal Eidos is a Rasha de Pasal. Rasha de Chamos, a Rasha of theft. Let's take a moment to look at Rashi. Rashi says, the kivin the misha mamoin kavid tashchicha bizol tvei medetira have like a Rasha Chamos of Pasal Eidos. So Rashi gives us a little bit more depth why it's a psula eidos, because I think usually when we think of mamar liti avoin, he's better than a mamar lahachis. A mamar lahachis is someone who's doing it to anger Hashem. So why here do we see the flip? So Rashi's telling us that's because this is a unique din in mamanis. That mamanis we're seeing now, your apostle eidos, if it involves money. So letei avon, we're assuming, why did you do a letei avon? Why did you eichel nevelas letei avon? Because it's cheaper. So that's a form of chamas. That's a form of stealing. However, if it's mumar lahachis, then we have this machlekes Abaye and Rava. Meisvei asking and Rava, al tazis rasha eid, al tazis chamas eid, elu gazlanim, uma'ilim b'shvuais. These are gazlanim, and those who don't make shuas properly. Says the Gemara, "Ma'ila v'chashuas shav v'chashuas mammon," and therefore we see that someone who's puzzle, even if it's not mamish mammonis, it's not mamish gazlan, not mamish chamas, it's a shvuah money, anything related to money. So ask the Gemara and Rava, you said a mamish has to be Rasha the chamas. Answers Gemara, lo, I did shuas mammon. My shuas shvuos. Talma means stam shvuos in general. Meisvei, we flip it a kasha and Abaye. Al touch Rasha eid, al touch chamas eid. Il gazlan malvi rios. Tiyofta, the Abaye, Tiyofta, so says the Gemara, since we see in the Braisa that people, that it's only a financial issue that passes one for Eidos, so we see that other Aveiros will not passel Eidos, and the Gemara ends off, Tiyofta, the Abaye, Tiyofta, that it's not going to be a Stam Mumrla Teyavoin, will not passel, Mumar, one more time, Mumar Lahaches, will not basel only if it has devolving money. Says the Gemara, Nema Kitanoi. Let's suggest that this machlekes Abaye and Rava is indeed a machlekes Tanoim. Eid Zaymin Pasal Lachala Terakula Divi Rameir Rav Yesi Omer B'Medvar Marim Shahuze B'Din Nefash Lavuzim Din Mamanis Kash. Says the Gemara, Aval Huzam Din Mamanis Kasher Ledine Nefashes. So machlekes Abaye and Rava. If an Eid Zayim is Pasal Chalatar Kula, Rameir says, Raisi says no, only if he's Huzam with regarding to capital cases, but not to Azama with regarding to Mamanis. Azama with regarding to Mamanis, he'll still be able to give Eidos on capital crimes. So suggest the Gemara, Nema Abaye Krameir, Vrama Krav Yaisi. Explains the Gemara, Abaye Krameir, Damar Amrina Mikula Lachomra. Abaye holds like Rameir, that Eid Zayim is Pasal Chalatar Kula, that we say Mekula Lachomra, that once one commits an Aveira, even a less severe Aveira, we have to now assume that he's going to do a larger Aveira. As Rashi explains, Tainunami Mekula Chomra Dechlavila is Ra L'Shamayim, Vena Ra L'Brios, Avamei Shekel Mammon is Ra L'Shamayim Ra L'Brios, Shrei Mavsidim Veidusev Kapasale. That once one is pasal eidos, once one does a smaller avera, smaller in the fact that it's only ra in the eyes of God, but people don't know about it, he'll also be pasal with regard to mamanis. Answers the Gemara, Loi, this is not the same machlekes. I'll leave it there. Leave it there. Meir by Rava Amar. Rav will tell you no. Rameir's din was over there, localized in by Azama, the Mamoin Deral Shamayim Veral Brios. Avlacha Deral Shamayim Ve'in Ral Brios. Loi, then that would not pass. Looks like I say the Abaya. Says the Gemara, and guess what? We pass like Abaya, which everyone is wondering. 1 second. A moment ago we said that Tiyufta Dabaya. So what is going on over here? We said Tiyufta Dabaya. We suggested it's a machlekes Tanaim. And now the Gemara says, how is that possible? So says the Gemara, but we already had a kasha and Abaya. Answers the Gemara, Rav Yosi. The Brisa, which was a kasha and Abaya, that Brisa was Rav Yosi. V'tavi nami Rav Yosi. So why don't we say, he's very good at Rav Yosi, but Rav Yosi, halacha Rav Yosi. So we paskin like Rav Yosi. So Nachamal, is it a Yoftork or a paslik Abaya? Shani Asam desasla tanik Rav Meir. Vehecha desasinlan ki vehecha. That is a stam Mishnah like Rav Meir, and therefore we paskin like Rav Meir. Vehecha sasinlan ki hada ki ha. Dvar chama katal nafsha. In the case of Bar Chama, who they accused of killing Saman, Amar Le Reish Galusa Rav Abba Bar Yaakov, Poik Ayin Ba. Reish Galusa told Rav Yaakov to get it. Ivade katal lehikua leine asu. Do look at it. Ivade katal. If it shows that he killed for sure, lechiu leine. Gouge out his eyes, says Reish Galusa. So Asa Trey Saadi, as he do made Ivade katal. 2 Adim came, and Lamaisa gave Eitos that yes, he killed. Azlio, I see Trey Saadi. But then he, Bar Chama, went and brought 2 other Eidim. Bechad Mehanoch, Bechad Amar Kamoi. He brought 2 different Eidim. Chad Amar Kamoi, Didi Ganav Kabo de Chushla. One Eid said, in my presence he stole barley. Chad Amar Kamoi, Didi Ganav. Then in my presence he stole Kata Dibur Tios. We turn over to Chav Zayin and base. So each aid, which is a spear handle, so each aid is making up, or shouldn't say making up, each aid is giving eidos on a different story. So Amar Lei, so comes along Rav Yaakov, and he says, "My daitach, why are you bringing the eidim to show that he's a ganov? Rav Meir, Rav Yosi, we paskin like Rav Yosi. Rav Yosi, Amar, who's a Medina Mamanis, is kosher, Ladina Nefasha. So the fact that the Eidim are at odds with regard to Mamanis, guess what? But we'll still believe them with regard to Dine Nefashis. Amar le Rav Papi, it says Rav Papi, no, Hani Miliechad Loi Sasam Lo Tanik Rav Meir. Tanik Rav Meir is a stam Mishnah like Rav Meir. So says the Gemara, Mimai. Where do we see a stam Mishnah like Rav Meir? If it's going to become from the Mishnah Nida that says, whoever can dan din nefashis dan din mamanis mani ilim Rav Yosi or you can't say in the mammon the kashal din nefashis and the apostle din mamanis. So it can't be Rav Yosi. Alav Rav Meiri. Says the Gemara Mimai. How do you know that that is the subject of the Mishnah Nida? All it said is Kol Arayu Ladon. Telma b'psula yochsein kai. Maybe over there it's a totally different story. Maybe over there we're talking about psul yochsein. If you're not going to say that, Sefer Tiktani, the Sefer over there says Yeshrayu Ladon dinei mammon. It's ein Rayu Ladon din v'ashai samai. How can it be that we've shown that is Roi for dinei mammonis and not dinei nefashais? Ve'en Rayu Ladin nefashais. Amai ein Rayu. Tesem din nefashais is Rayu Ladon dinei mammonis. V'adiver kol pasalu. Ela b'psul yochsein kai. So must be that Mishnah Nida is not a Raya. Because that's what psul yochsein. Chanami psul yochsein kai. So we have not found this time Mishnah like Rav Meir. So says the Gemara halacha kasasam lan tana d'tanan. We learned this is earlier on in Sanhedrin a few days ago. Elin absulim misach v'kuvim alibe ribis. Umavricha yavan v'zach shviyes v'avadim zakal kalida sheni shekshiro la. Who is that Mishnah? If you're going to tell me Rav Yosi, what do you mean? A woman is not allowed to testify capital crimes. And these people are kosher for the Malvi Ribis v'chulu. Elolav Rameiri, and we're talking about Rameir. Come Bar Chama. So after this whole search, Bar Chama gets up. Nashke akare v'kare lekarga lekule shana. Kissed Rav Papa on his foot, and he took upon himself to go speak to the king and to pater Rav Papi for taxes for the rest of the year. He was blown away by the godless of Rav Papi. Continue with the Mishnah. smack in middle of Chav Zayin Mabes. Says the Mishnah Ve'ilu Heina Kroivim, and really we could sort of categorize in our mind the previous Mishnah was actions that Basel one. Now we're getting involved not in actions but relations, relatives. Echav, one's brother, Vechaviv, brother or father, Vecha'ima, brother or mother, Ubal Achaisai, and the husband of one's sister, Ubal Achais Aviv, and the father's sister's husband, Ubal Achais Ima, the mother, Bal Imai, the husband of the mother, V'chamav, and one's father-in-law, V'gisai, and one's brother-in-law. Hey, Nubneim, V'chasuneim, V'chasuneim, excuse me. They, their sons, and their sons-in-law. V'chargai levadai, and a stepson is alone possible, but not his son and his son. Doesn't go all the way down. Amr Rav Yosi Zu Mishnah's Rav Akiva. Mishnah's Rishayna, but the Mishnah Rishayna was differently. An uncle and uncle's brother, anyone who's rayu to inherit someone. And anyone who's related to him at that moment, either when the Edim testify or when the Din Torah is. If he was a karev and he became unrelated due to a death, for example, or a divorce, son-in-law who's no longer related, death, divorce, harizeh kasher. Due to the grandchildren, it's still called a karev. Finally, the Mishnah concludes, a friend and an enemy is pasal leidus. Oyev zeh sheshminai. What's an oyev? The groomsman. Soine koshel davar imay shleisha yamim be'iva. Someone who did not speak to someone 3 days, not stam that they're busy because of Eva due to hate. Amar leilon actually Yisrael al kach. He said, no, we don't suspect Klal Yisrael on this. That what? We don't suspect that even if someone is not in good terms with someone else, that's going to cause him to give eidos at a not be'emes, not in truth, and therefore these will not pass. We'll finish up just beginning the Gemara Minan immediately. Where do we know these relatives? Tan Rabban lo yimasu avos albanim ma tamaloimer im lelamish lo yimsu avos avoin banim. Father doesn't die for the sins of the kid upon above and avos. Harikvar number we have a pasuk ish b'chata yimasoi only for his own chatayim. Elo lo yimasu avos albanim be'idos banim banim lo yimasu avos be'idos avos. Period. Ask the Gemara, a child does not die for the sins of the father, for example, you can have it of us, albanim. We remember the sins of the father and the son. Answers Gemara, it's only if they're still doing the Avera of the father, Kedetanya, as the Brisa teaches us, Afba Avoinais Avoisam, as the Brisa teaches us, 1 second. The sins of the father they'll wither away. It's only when they're still doing their averis. That's when they're holding on to the chat, and that's when one will be killed for his father's averis. Stop over here as the Gemara is going to continue asking. There's never a case his own could be killed for a son's averis, father's averis, etc.